Hello, my Degens. How we doing? I'm here today to talk about camp hype. I'm talking about the guys that have been loud. Sometimes camp hype is real. Sometimes you can't ignore it. I'm going to get into the guys that you should not be ignoring right now. All right. So we are talking camp hypes. We're talking about guys that have been talked about in nauseum at this point in time. On Twitter, especially, we're looking at the guys that have been overhyped, underhyped. But I'm going to talk about the guys I really like that have a clear path, that have a situation that is favorable, whatever it may be. There's some guys that you just can't ignore. The first guy I'm talking about right now is Jacory Croskey-Merritt. Obviously, the name has to change, or we have to come up with a better nickname because I really don't want to drop that whole nonsense of three names down every time I want to refer to him. We could say JCM for reference right now. We're talking about a seventh round running back out of Arizona. And I think that he should have never fell to the seventh round. And that's really, obviously the NFL is kind of developing a short-sighted mentality, especially when it comes to injuries. So Jacory Croskey-Merritt had a 23 breakout year, which was 1,200 yards, 18 touchdowns for New Mexico. And it just, he pops. He shows incredible ability. He shows the fact that he probably shouldn't have been in the seventh round in this year alone. I think that it was unfortunate what happened to him because during COVID, what occurred was that they docked him for that year of limited playing time. And then they didn't say that he was eligible for the 24 season. So his COVID freshman year counted. And this is where it gets a little messy, where he didn't play in all of 2024. And I think if he played in 2024, we would have saw somebody that absolutely would have risen up the boards, and probably for a lot of good reason, because when I look at the tape, I see somebody with great acceleration, lateral ability, the mobility in general, up and down the field, good vision. He understands gap schemes. I think that there's so much to like about his tape. There's so much to like about the game. We're talking about somebody that has pretty decent size, but moves great. I think he's looking at 215 right now, but ultimately he runs a little heavier than that. I see somebody that can be a workhorse back. I think that we're seeing the NFL shift right now, and we're seeing these guys not having to have a certain BMI. We're looking at Devon Chain and certain guys, even Gibbs coming out with 205. You don't have to be a 225 bruiser anymore to have success in the NFL. It's not built like that. We saw where he landed. We're talking about a team that has a pretty murky running back situation. We are looking at a team that has Brian Robinson in the last year of his contract, and really somebody that has shown not great efficiency and really just fell out of favor last year as a whole. We saw his trajectory kind of dip a little bit as the season went on. Obviously started really hot, but the way that he finished, it was, you would be surprised and remiss that they didn't. I honestly thought they were going to take somebody much higher, but as a whole, this draft class just was so deep that people waited. The fact that they wait until the seventh round, I don't think you have to fade that guy. I don't think, the NFL has shifted and shown its hands that, they're not going to necessarily spend high draft capital on these guys. We talk about Brian Robinson, we talk about his inefficiency, and then the next guy up is Austin Ekeler, who's 30 years old. And we know Austin Ekeler. I think I've talked about him in detail. I love Ekeler as a person. I love him. I love what he's done in the NFL, outside the NFL, just the charity that he does, the just overall outstanding human. But he's a locker room guy at this point. He's somebody that is there to mentor, to help, to guide along, to really set in place somebody that's coming out of college and might need somebody to lend a helping hand. So right now I see him just lining up as RB2 in this, just straight up. So I think that he could have a good first year being behind Brian Robinson and working in and kind of seeing like a 30-40% snap share. And then if we're talking about somebody that just completely falls out, if they by any chance want to just see what they have, I think that he probably could take over the backfield in the middle of the season. And they probably could work it in. And we might even see like a situation where this guy is a 70-30 split where he's the favorable guy. We might see a Bucky Irving situation where, that DC didn't even affect him at all either. And we see Croskey-Merritt jump in, and slowly but surely we could see a change of guard in the middle of the season, especially if they're competitive, especially if they want somebody with more juice. I'm all in on this guy where he is right now, because I'm talking about guys that are essentially free in the draft. These guys are, way late in the best ball, in Dynasty, whatever it is, redraft, they're free. I think they might go undrafted at this point, even though he's got the crazy camp hype. He's still probably the 17th, 18th round of redraft. So, yeah, these guys are free money, and you got to take the camp hype seriously on these guys for sure. Next guy up right now is Tory Horton. Tory Horton fell into a very favorable situation. I think he fell for the same reason that Jacory Croskey-Merritt fell, where we didn't have any tape from him in 2024. He suffered a significant knee injury, and a lot of people probably didn't expect him to come back and be the guy that he was before. The guy that he was before in 2023 was at 1,136 yards, 8 touchdowns, and carried the Colorado team. He's a Colorado native. He played for his team. And honestly, he was their offense. And he was the guy that they just dominated. He's a true X receiver. He's somebody that is a long strider, great speed. He's got good separation. He has contested catch ability. He's just a guy that is unlike anybody that they have on the team. If we're looking at the depth chart right now, we are looking at JSN. Obviously, JSN primed to have the lion's share of the targets over there. And then we have Cooper Kupp. And JSN and Cooper Kupp play similarly. They have the same skill set. They're playing slot. Cooper Kupp can play a little bit on the outside, but he's getting up there in age. And we are looking at a team that doesn't have a stretcher, doesn't have somebody that can open up the second level of defenses. I think these two guys, when we're talking about Kupp and JSN, they're going to be working in the middle. They're going to be working a little bit on the outside, but we're going to be seeing them get most of their money out of the slot. And there's nobody that really should be holding back Tory Horton from taking over. There's MVS, and we know what MVS is. We've seen what he does. I think Tory Horton clears him and is beating him handedly in camp right now. Everything that I see out of this is Tory Horton's probably lining up in 3 wideout sets right now. Right now, currently, we're looking at somebody that's going to be a day one starter, and people aren't taking him seriously. He has the ability to be an alpha. I think that the way that he plays on the field, he is the guy that's going to be all big plays. To start his career, we might only see him be a boom bust. But ultimately, I think that he is going to be a guy that's steadily rising. And I think that we're looking at somebody that could have a Stephon Diggs trajectory, faded out in the draft itself, and was a very successful guy in college. And for whatever reason, whether it's injury or just, lack of production in the final year, they fade out in the NFL draft. And it's just, I would never have ever guessed that Tory Horton would fall the way that he fell. His skill set is too nuanced. He's got too much going on as a receiver to be faded out. So I think that Tory Horton as a whole, you should be grabbing him wherever you can. And I think that I got him on some waivers. He went undrafted in a lot of rookie drafts. And we're talking about best ball, he's a perfect guy in best ball, because I don't see MVS starting over him, and they're going to need somebody that is that home run ability, that has that 45, 50 yard pass capability. Like they're going to need somebody that is that big play guy. And I think that Tory Horton's going to just slide right into the spot. He's in a perfect situation. And I can't stress enough how you got to be tapping this guy wherever you can, especially in best ball. Next guy I'm talking about, Brashard Smith. Brashard Smith was a hybrid. He was a wide receiver for 3 years of college. Like we're talking about somebody that played all through college as a wide receiver. And then his last year, he transferred to SMU and became a running back. So the skill set there is crazy nuance. It's the fact that he has that ability to be a wide receiver in the backfield, he gives me big time Percy Harvin vibes. Somebody that you can line up almost anywhere, and he's a weapon. He is a electric weapon. We're talking about his skill set. I would expect him to kind of play all over the field, but he's explosive. He has that ability to line up in the slot, line up on the outside. There's so many options to play him. And I don't think this even hurts Pacheco to the degree that people are thinking it hurts him. I think that Pacheco's still going to be the ground and pound guy, but Brashard Smith is going to be that pass catching back that they so desperately, actually, I wouldn't say desperately need, but like at this point they rely on. We saw pass catching backs be extremely successful in Kansas City. These guys that don't even have half the juice that Brashard Smith has were, borderline RB1s last year. Like with the Jurek McKinnons and the who else did they have over there? I can't even name all the back end guys that extreme value towards the end of the season on that team. McKinnon was a league winner at that point, and that was just pass catching. He was catching 9-10 passes a game. And I think they're still going to be hungry for playmakers on this team, especially if Rice sees an extended suspension. So I think that Brashard Smith could be relied on heavily as a pass catcher almost immediately. And if you don't even think that stays the way it is, I don't care, because he's going to have great value to start the season. And he's another guy that you can get super late. I think that he's probably rising up the boards a little bit, but like even as a running back, we saw him develop in real time last year. And I saw that he has exceptional vision. Like the fact that he can see the field as a wide receiver in the backfield is extremely beneficial. He can see how guys are lining up, how defenses are lining up. He can see if they're running, if they're playing pass defense, and he can just break out and be that pass catcher if they want to change it up a little bit. So he has, so much versatility, and it's like there's no way that he's not going to have value this season. The first year coming out, I think they're going to find ways to have him be a playmaker on the field. I just can't see you fading this guy, especially in the final round of a rookie draft or the 18th round of a dynasty startup. Even in redraft, we're talking about a late round, maybe last pick guy. I think that he's worth it. I think that you're going to see a 2-back system on this team. And I think Pacheco is going to be preserved a little bit, where they're going to be working both of these guys at the same time. We're going to see probably a good split backfield at this point, where Brashard Smith's getting all of the passing work, and we're talking about Pacheco being the running back and the goal line work guy. I think they're both going to have good success and be good dynasty stashes. I mean, Pacheco being a starter, where Brashard Smith's probably going to gain steam throughout the season and definitely be a nice flex for you when it's all said and done. I think that I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but like, dude, it's too much value. There's too much opportunity on these teams to not be tapping these guys. And the last guy that I'm going to be dropping right now is Mr. Jordan James. So Jordan James was coming out of Oregon, and the fact that he was so successful sharing the backfield with Bucky Irving just tells me that he doesn't need a lot to have a lot of value in this league. He has shown that he is super effective and super efficient with limited touches. In the year that he shared the backfield his sophomore year with Bucky Irving, he led the Pac-12 with a 7.09 yards per carry and 11 touchdowns. So that's 7 yards per carry. That's incredible. And we're talking about limited work. He has limited tread on the tires. He hasn't been, worked over, I think he's got over 350 carries for his entire college career. I think that he's fresh. He's got legs. He's got the ability to when I look at his tape, I've done full breakdowns of this guy. I could probably do a full pod on this guy alone. He explodes through lanes. He's patient, lateral agility. He's got sudden cut ability. So he's got good hip work. He can definitely change directions. He transitions perfectly from horizontal to vertical. He's just got that great ability where you can line him up and he's going to make a play no matter the defense, however they set it up. He's got the ability to manipulate defenders. He understands motion before motion even happens. And he's so efficient with his touches. He's so efficient. He's got the ability to just be that guy. And then when we saw him as the only guy in the backfield, we saw a boom year. We saw 1,267 yards with 15 touchdowns. I mean, he's got that workhorse ability, but he's also going to be like a good Batman or a good Robin. It's really up to how San Francisco wants to use this guy. But I think that we're going to see Jordan James over Isaac Arendo. And I think that if there is a injury to CMC, Jordan James is probably going to be the guy to slide into that RB1 position. So I think that Jordan James is a priority add. If he's on the waiver wire in dynasty leagues, you should grab him up right now, scoop him up. And honestly, I'm good with him in redraft as a good stash. I think best ball is an easy tap. All these guys. So the guys that I went over today, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, Tory Horton, Brashard Smith, Jordan James, they are all going to find success this year. All of these guys are going to have an opportunity to contribute immediately. But I think that there's incredible ceilings to all these guys if things fall into place. Obviously, these are all guys that need some situations to occur. And it's not just the skill set that I'm talking about here. You want to target guys that are in perfect situations. They're behind guys that are either inefficient, shallow depth charts, injury concerns. All these things should be in account, and you should be definitely taking them seriously when we're talking about these guys that are late round dart throws. How many times have we seen in the recent NFL these late round dart throws to be, everyone wants to see the next Puka Nacua, the next Bucky Irving. These are the guys that you should be targeting in this draft class. These are the next up guys. I think that any of these guys could have, like we're talking about Brashard Smith possibly being a Percy Harvin if he's getting the usage. Jacory Croskey-Merritt honestly has that workhorse ability, could be like a top running back and could see that Bucky Irving trajectory where he's taken over the backfield eventually over somebody like I think that the backfield mirrors that situation the closest when we're talking about inefficiency, where, Rachaad White was definitely a very inefficient running back. And then we see the breakdown from last year when, this guy in general, Brian Robinson, just like fell apart. He couldn't last a whole season. He wasn't efficient enough. He didn't have the ability to carry the ball to the level that he did at the beginning. We just saw him break down. So if we see that breakdown again, or if that's in the coach's mind in general, where he broke down, he wasn't dependable, he wasn't somebody that they could rely on for the whole season, I think he might fall out of favor pretty fast. And then, Tory Horton's in that great situation. He is the only X on that team that has the juice. I'm not scared about MVS. I don't see him, being a roadblock for Tory Horton starting. I think he's going to start day one. You want to target these guys that are day one starters. They're going to be lining up as the wide receiver 3 on the team. And this is what Tory Horton's going to be. And by all means, like if he capitalizes on that, I think that he could jump Kupp in the depth chart as far as being usage wise. I mean, I'm not saying that Kupp's cooked by any means. I think Kupp's still going to have good value, but if he's going to be catching all the long long balls, if he's going to be that deep shot X wide receiver, and if they open that offense up a little bit, he's going to be the heartbeat of the team. He's going to have to stretch the defense to the point where they're going to be able to use JSN properly and use Cup to the best of their abilities. They need a field stretcher. And then, like I said, I just touched on Jordan James. Jordan James is probably going to line up as the RB2 of this team immediately. And I think that we all know that CMC has had issues staying on the field. And I think that he's going to get opportunity. I think that he's going to be worked in immediately. I think that he's probably going to get a little bit, like 20% snap share to start off. And like I said, if CMC, nagging injury, something happens, I think it's wheels up on Jordan James. So all these guys, for good reason, I just recapped that. Definitely tap these guys, go get them wherever you can, and then tune in to us. So we're going to be doing some fades. We're going to be talking about camp hype that's not real. So I appreciate you joining me today, and we'll catch you guys next week.